Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live in collaboration with NeoStella. So in today's complex Salesforce environment, process maps are incredibly important tools, allowing users to visualize intricate workflows. So getting them right is vital. That's why our discussion today will revolve around the essential insights that Salesforce admins need to build effective process maps. You'll also want to stick around for a demo at the end where our panelists will be showing you an app that uses visual representations to map out processes, automations, and interactions within Salesforce. So while we wait for everyone to join, let us know where you're logging in from today. We always love to see what a global audience we have attending. Okay, let's get started. So I'm thrilled to introduce to you Eric Eklund, Sam Karshanas, Sandy Zellner, and Vanessa Grant, who are here with us today to talk about various methodologies for effective process mapping. So before we get started, we have a few house rules to go over. So as it is a webinar, all lines are muted, but don't worry, we'll be having a Q&A at the end for you to ask the team any burning questions you may have. So feel free to submit the questions in the comments throughout the webinar. The webinar will also be recorded and will be available on our Salesforce Ben LinkedIn and YouTube channel, just in case you need to drop off or would like to share it with your colleagues. Brilliant. Well, I'll hand it over to you guys to take us through the presentation, and I'll see you at the end for the Q&A.
Thanks so much, Zaina, and thanks everybody for joining. We're excited to have a roundtable discussion here today. My name is Eric Eklund. I'm a 9-time certified Salesforce application architect. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem about 15 years, wearing all of the hats from accidental admin to co-founder of a multinational Salesforce implementation shop. Currently, I focus on setting the direction for an AppExchange app called Work Relay, which we're excited to talk about today. Sam, I'll pass it to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sam Karshanas. I am our Director of Sales here at NeoStella and overseeing a few of our different product lines. We're involved with process automation as well as integration services, but then also our business process management tool based in Salesforce as well. So I was fortunate to start my career early on as an implementation specialist within Salesforce, as well as a developer working in Apex, developing communities, and got a lot of experience with that. And over time, I've progressed more into the sales side and working with our clients to help deliver those solutions. So great to see everyone. Looking forward to the conversation. I can pass it over to Sandy then.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And hello, everyone. My name is Sandy Zellner. I am a 21-time certified Salesforce application architect that started out as an accidental admin and kind of dug deep over the years and went my way from admin to product manager to now an architect. And I started my own company. Really love talking to people, all over the world about best practices in Salesforce. And I'm really excited to be here, part of this conversation, and looking forward to talking about one of my things, and that's my favorite things, and that's really kind of making sure that everyone's on the same page. And so we have good process documentation, and I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. Oh, over to Vanessa. Sorry.
All right, got it. Hi,
you.
everybody. My name is Vanessa Grant. I'm currently a product owner and manager at FinTech Mosaic, but I'm 10 times certified. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 14 years now. And I would say most of the time in the community, I love speaking about business analysis. Like that is where my heart is. And I also co-host the Salesforce Career Show with Josh Matthews. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you to Salesforce Ben and NeoStella for having me. And of course, Sandy, so excited to share a stage with you.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you both for joining us today. We're really excited about it. And Zaina and the Salesforce Ben team, we just want to thank you all again for hosting this this roundtable for our participants here. Just to get a quick information out of the way around us as NeoStella, we are a global technology solutions company. We focus on business process management, robotic process automation, and application integrations. We are a Salesforce ISV partner, and our primary application is Work Relay, which is a top-rated AppExchange app for the past 10 years and counting, really in the business process management and automation space.
Can I pause you, Eric? And
please.
I'm a big fan of making sure that people understand the vocabulary so that if they're interested in something, they can look it up. Can you talk a little bit about BPM? Because in my world, BPM tends to stand for business process mapping, but you're talking about business process management.
Yeah, more from the application side there then. So business process management itself, making sure that we're able to really identify the processes that need to be executed, who's responsible for them, how we can track those end to end, and then how we can see overall how we're performing as an organization. So that entire end to end management of the process and automation within to ensure that we can get things done quickly and with as few touches as possible. So that, yeah, that's really where we focus. Great question, Vanessa.
I know we love acronyms.
We do, and there's so many that are the same. I appreciate it. So as we've all kind of discussed, right, we've all been in the Salesforce ecosystem for a good long time. We all have seen Salesforce used as a CRM, right, and more we've seen it grow into really being the hub of the business, right? We have that vital data about our customers, and we're starting to see and have been seeing, you know, for a while now, companies going further than CRM and really starting to track those other business critical processes on the Salesforce platform in order to unify their data, use that data, learn from it, and really now start to empower AI to provide better experiences for their customers and really enable their own end users. So obviously we've seen this across sales and sales operations, and really starting to see that across revenue operations, the finance teams, really all corners of the business. And in some cases, those processes are touching from one to the next, right, as they kind of relay that work over and over again. I know internally, just to kind of relay a personal experience here at NeoStella in one of our business lines, as we close a deal, it kicks off a process that involves our legal team, our finance team, our implementation team, and we track that end-to-end implementation. So really almost every aspect or department within our organizations. I'm sure, you know, Sandy, Vanessa, this resonates with you and you've seen similar things in your experience, yeah?
Sandy, you want to go?
Yeah, sure, I will. Absolutely. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I heard you say there that was very interesting and might have been like, it's very topical right now is that preparation for utilizing AI. But I think even as humans, like we are the original AI, right? So for even as humans, it's really important for us to have just a good baseline understanding about how everything works, or you know, how everything maybe talks to each other, or processes are handed off from one part of the team or another. And I think that having a good understanding and being able to document that, even from the most basic level of, hey, my salesperson takes a monthly trip out to whatever their territory is and comes back with a paper file box full of stuff, and then we have to get that in, and then it has to go through technology. But like that can be a lot of steps. But having just that information and understanding of, so we can have a conversation of what is actually happening. So we can assist those people with technology. We can enhance, find efficiencies, and then yes, prepare for AI. And the true way that we're going to be prepared for AI is to have a good understanding of what our data is, where is it coming from, how is it moving between either systems, departments, people. So I think we're having a really good conversation today. It's topical about all of these things where from a technology process perspective may seem like they're little pieces or siloed. They are really a big part of the overall story of how we can all be successful together. And that's having that information to have informed conversations with each other to make good decisions. So.
I'll add in, I've worked with as a consultant for a number of years, and there's so many processes that involve multiple departments. And I mean, once a contract gets signed, even just at the most basic level, like you have a salesperson signs a contract, it's not like magically they're a customer and everything happens. Like there's a handoff to billing, there's a handoff to whoever the team is that's going to give them the product, whatever widget or service that they're receiving. There's possibly a legal handoff. And if you look at the wastes of software delivery, like one of the wastes is handoffs. So having a visual is so important where you can actually see where those handoffs are. And I'll share a story from one of my consulting days where a lot of times if you're receiving a project or feature request from a particular department. Like they're so laser focused oftentimes on their particular process that they're not thinking about the handoffs. So one of the things that I try to convey to folks that are interested in business analysis is always ask about the handoffs, because I had gotten, I would say, close to putting a particular process, like a new feature within Salesforce just about to release, where all of a sudden I got a red alert from the finance team that was like, whoa, we heard you're doing something, and this is actually going to impact us because we are part of this process. So getting that visual and making sure that everybody is following that source of truth is, I think, super important.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. That process is ultimate, right? And I think we all in our careers, whether it's as an admin, as a consultant, as running our own business, those situations are brought to us where, hey, we need to modernize an existing process, or we need to start tracking a brand new process. And the instruction is often, well, at least often in my experience, it's quick. Hey, get our implementation team into Salesforce, or hey, we're going to track our implementation teams somewhere, and we have to advocate for, oh, that would be so great to have it in Salesforce. Um, and one of the things that I've often kind of been faced with are those time constraints of, we need it done quickly. It should, we needed this done yesterday, and really having to fight for, okay, I understand, but we need to peel this back and really understand that process before we can start building, right? So some of these things on the screen, I'm sure are kind of speaking directly to what you, Vanessa, and Sandy were both saying, right? Where we've got those many departments involved. Okay, who are they? When do they get involved? That kind of thing. The tools that we might be using just aren't up to par. Sometimes they're not even digitized. Sometimes it is that different color paper goes to different department kind of thing, right? So the ultimate one being kind of that lack of documentation, which is just a killer for the people building, the people executing, and all of those things. The only real certainty I think that I've found in those types of requests coming to me is that ultimately that process is going to change as well. So we just need to be ready for that, and hopefully we have the tools at our disposal that will allow us to modify that process when it does need to make that change. Anything else, Sandy or Vanessa, that you wanted to add here, or Sam, anything to chime in on?
Oh, I actually, if you wouldn't mind, a little personal anecdote here, I think kind of fits into this, is that I recently was working with a client, and I think I've seen this happen at no matter what size the client that I've worked with or the organization that I've been a part of, these sorts of things happen frequently, is many times we're trying to accomplish the same simple goal. Like, for example, I had a client that was working on a project and that they needed to verify an address as part of an intake for a client. Or for one of their clients, right? So their main goal was to just make sure it was an actual address when users were implementing things. And part of their project was they wanted to find a solution for that. Well, we kind of got a little further down into the project and started asking some questions, and then realized that a different department within their organization already had a working solution for that. So we were actually basically attempting to do duplicative work because it hadn't been documented well about the other capabilities and feature sets that had already been solved for. So I think one of the things that, again, that high level process documentation across a company, no matter what size, you can start to find patterns for reusable modular solutions that can be incorporated, which then does help bring that time to value of, if you can implement something that already functions, maybe you even already have other licenses, it's already available. But if you don't know about it, and you have different teams working on different projects at the same time, you might end up building two completely different solutions for the exact same goal. So I think that's something that I see frequently, is that can be solved by, let's just, again, high level, let's make sure we all understand what does the system can do, what does we need to do, and find those patterns for reusability.
Yeah, it really speaks to that lack of alignment, right? And then you end up with that application sprawl and paying for 3 different apps kind of thing.
Yeah.
Vanessa, I saw you
Yeah,
wanted
for
to
sure.
chime in there.
First, I'm going to fangirl a little bit. Sandy talking architecture is so exciting to me. Yeah, for me, when I have worked with clients before, I will say oftentimes if sometimes you'll speak to 2 different departments that are on the same process, and if you don't have them working together on and agreeing on what the process is visually, oftentimes they kind of have different perspectives on it. So I've actually sat there like, with a whiteboard, actually trying to say, okay, so this is the first step, then this is the second step. Do we all agree? And sometimes they won't. So having a unified view, so you get that alignment, like you have on the slide, is so important, because they're all trying to get to the same feature a lot of the time. So making sure that they're aligned on actually what the current state is and what they're trying to accomplish is super important. But oftentimes there is that time constraint. And so I think it's really important that we, as business analysts, consultants, admins, that we are talking about what the fallout is if we don't actually do this, the shift left, and do the discovery that we need to, and do the visualizations that we need. I mean, oftentimes business process maps are the start to user stories. So you make sure that we've captured anything in the process, that we don't have any gaps, that we have captured all those handoffs, that we're all aligned on what the process needs to be. So important to really shift that focus left, even with the time constraints, because ultimately, if we don't do that discovery up front, we're going to end up at the end of a process going, oh wait, we missed a few steps, or oh wait, we didn't, we forgot these few things, or we have these certain problems now that we didn't address earlier. So for sure, shifting left. And I know it's like kind of cliche, but I'm a big proponent.
Yeah. That's a great point, Vanessa, and even something that relates to some of the other product lines that we work with at NeoStella. One of them being that UiPath RPA. What we saw with so many of our clients that we were working with automation being such a buzz during the COVID time, we had so many clients that came to us with the goal of let's implement automation. But we always had to get them to take a step back and really think about, to automate a process, we need to have a very well documented, well understood. We need that synergy or alignment between those different departments. And what we found in many cases was clients were actually using our first discovery session as that opportunity when the legal and accounting team wanted to battle it out and they had their own priorities there and they were trying to work through that. We've seen a lot of those discussions, and that's really where we came around to. In order to optimize or automate a process, the first step really is standardizing and understanding, what do we have today? Let's all get in alignment, and now we can grow from there together. So
yeah. And
yeah.
also optimizing it. Like once, one of my favorite things to say is, if you take a bad process and then you throw automation on it, you just have a faster bad process. So being able to align and see and look at those handoffs and see where we can optimize first and then throw automation on it, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly one of those things is I was kind of early in my admin career, something that I didn't know I needed to do, right? I'm an admin, I go build things. Someone asked me to build something, I build it. And you slowly, well, not even slowly, you quickly learn that that was a bad idea because it just involves more work and off hours work. So really empowering those admins in our audience, right, to be BAs as well, right? Learn what business analysis is and how you can perform those functions, and then necessarily having to perform those functions in a lot of cases within your organization. So really just making sure that we understand that process. And then at the same point, what does my resulting process look like, right? What does success mean for me as an implementation person? How can I define that within Salesforce, right? And so I've got a number of things here that I always strive for, right? And that first one that we've really been harping on is that documentation, and we'll continue to really kind of drill in there and explore that here today. But also, and Vanessa, I know we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago around that standardization, that centralization, right? Making sure we have repeatable processes that are all managed from a single point. And I know that's something that's extremely important, and something
Absolutely.
that you talk about a lot.
Oh, for sure. Documented. First, of course, you need to have it written down, but centralized so people know where to look. So it's not oh, I didn't know where the process, like it's right there. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're all going to the same place, and everybody who's part of that process is all going to the same place.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I always try to keep in mind, and I know we all do, and it can sometimes get lost as we're architecting, is that end user experience as well, right? If it's not something that's user friendly, as well architected as I can make it in Salesforce from like a database perspective, if it's not friendly to use, I haven't done my job right, which is heartbreaking from the architect side of me. But just making sure that we give those users an easy way to find the work that they're supposed to be doing, and the fields that they need to fill out the data, and making sure that it gets to them in the right time without them having to hunt or figure out what needs to be done, right? And if we can serve that up well, then the result of that is measurability, and making sure that we can adapt it. And then if we get all of those 6 right, Vanessa, I know this leads to your favorite result, which is,
I know, evangelize it. Like
Yep.
it's once you have that source of truth and you've got it, you've got it to share with everybody, and you've got to keep bringing it up. It's not we make a business process map and that's it. It just exists in the beginning of a project and then collects dust. Like it needs to be living, breathing, part of your day to day, doing that job for everybody that's part of that process. And speaking about it regularly. Hey, you did something a little bit off. Did you look at the business process map? Updating it regularly. Oh, we should make sure that we're updating the process anytime that there's a change, even if it's incremental. That is super important so that everybody has that source of truth and things are transparent and consistent.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about documentation a little bit more, right? How do we see this typically? What are the tools that we're seeing or using currently? Obviously, we have kind of the original here, the OG pen and paper. It's on either our grid lines or just in our notebooks that we forget on the plane or those types of things. But it still happens. I know I'm guilty of making my own notes and then forgetting them at the office from time to time. We do, of course, see spreadsheets, Word docs, Google Docs, that kind of thing, just to at least outline what's happening and when, but might not give us that good kind of map of what needs to be accomplished in what order. And then stepping more into kind of the digital realm and working with Visio, working with Lucidchart, so we really do have that kind of business process mapping. And I know, Sandy, when we were kind of speaking about this the other day, in addition to putting the business process map together, I think an important facet of that is also when one should do that, right?
When, yes, I actually think that when should be before you start anything, right? So like, I think process mapping, first of all, it's an ongoing effort. It will never be done. It evolves as your projects evolve, as your business evolve, even just kind of as your understanding about what's happening around you, the documentation should evolve. And I think I like to have a hierarchical, I'm not sure if I can pronounce that word, a structure that is in a hierarchy of like, okay, I want to make sure that I step really back. So have that like 10,000 foot view of what's going on. And there might be just a couple squares on, again, I did resonate with the fact that, yes, I still take notes on a piece of paper and sometimes struggle to get them in there, but like really making sure that I have just a simple picture of high level, and then drilling down and making another process map that then identifies the specifics of that. And then maybe like, depending on how complicated it is, I might end up with like 10 that actually relate to each other. So, but that can get messy and kind of, they can be all over the place. But I think it's extremely important to be able to at least have that information available again, so you can have informed decisions about what are our priorities. Wait a second, we're gonna build this process, but that interferes with something else that's another department is doing, or it's the same as another department is doing. Can we use that? So I think just really overall having, even if it's the most simple information to guide those conversations is really helpful. And also, I think having it in a manner that we can then share it as part of our conversations, so I did hear you a little bit ago. You said as an admin, you felt like an order taker. It's like, oh no. Okay. So I think we, even though today I do architecture work, I still feel like the best developers, the best architects, we need to have an admin mindset. Admins are guardians of their organizations. They are the ones that are gathering this information, they're guiding their users, their stakeholders, their executives to make these prioritized decisions that are actually going to benefit the business. And so I'm hoping that if you're an admin out there, please don't feel like an order taker. We can say no, and this is why, or yes, but these other things have to happen first. But having this documentation of all of these processes will help us have those conversations and be those guardians of our organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a big mindset shift early in my career when I realized the power that I wield, and also the responsibility I had to making sure that we
Yes.
we really do treat it with that level of care and respect. The one thing, as we look at these different documentation methods, as simple or as sophisticated as they might be, is that they all result in our documentation still outside of Salesforce typically. And I've seen some integrations here and there, right? There's a Lucid integration into Salesforce, those types of things. But one of the things that we want to show here in just a minute is our ability to perform this documentation directly in Salesforce through Work Relay, and how you can continue building within that same kind of interface. But there are kind of three aspects that these documentation methods cover, and we like to try to speak about a fourth one as well. So as we talk about kind of our focused approach that we're typically advocating for or bringing to our customers, yes, we need to focus on the work that needs to be done, the order in which it needs to be done, who's doing the work. But another critical one for us is that element, that aspect of time. And it's something that's typically missing from native Salesforce capabilities, right? Tracking how long something has taken, even just a single step versus the entire process. So really, as we approach, or as we work with our customers on implementing their processes in Work Relay, we are able to quickly and easily show how we can build out those objectives, the sequence that they need to happen in, whether it's in serial or parallel, the people responsible, and then how long those things should take. And if we can nail all four of those, we're really enabling awesome admins to be those superheroes, those guardians of their organizations, providing end users with a very simple interface through which to do their work, providing management with those key metrics to understand how efficiently are we running our processes, where are we bottlenecked, do we need more staff, are we overstaffed, those types of things. And so, marrying all of that in one platform on Salesforce, where all of your data already lives, was really our objective and desire here with the Work Relay application. So would love to kind of show that off a little bit here, Sam, if you're able.
Well, Hall, can I throw a little something on?
Absolutely.
Because you've got a great
Please.
question on here. What would be the impact to your business if your admins could provide management and end users with the metrics and insights? And I think with admins, again, it's not order takers. If you go onto Trailhead and go to the admin skills kit, there's like 14 skills in there. Admins are expected to do so much. So wherever they can find efficiencies, either through the app exchange or however, it's super important. And I've always kind of felt like a major part of an admin's job is to help their users do their jobs more efficiently. Can they spend more time doing the things that they are supposed to accomplish? And so finding those tools to help them be that internal advisor to their organization, not just be that order taker, super important.
Yeah, great point. I think as we talk through this, we'll really show, how Work Relay as a tool can enable those awesome admins and really make that job easier to hit on those points that Eric talked about. How do we make sure the right person is doing the right work at the right time, ultimately? So as we take a look here, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Work Relay. And this is a native Salesforce application. So let me share this a little better. And what we're going to take a look at here to get started is going to be our process wizard. Think of it as we need to define our initial process, and how can we do that in a really quick way? So as we've talked about, the team will work together to document that process, understand what those steps are, but now what do we do with that? How do we make that actionable where we can get those metrics and standardization? As we get started here, this is where we're going to enter our process wizard, and it's going to ask us a little information about our process. What is the name of it? We can attach to any standard or custom object. In this case, let's go ahead on an order object. From here, we can specify what triggers our process. There's a lot of different ways, but in this case, let's do it whenever that order is created or edited. And from here, we're going to dictate what those responsibilities are. These are those different individuals which are a part of the process. We've talked about these are these different teams. This can be legal, accounting, operations, sales, leadership. How do we get all those individuals who are part of the process included here? So then from that next step here, we'll show how we actually assign each of those different steps within there to them to help drive this standard, consistent process for the team.
Yeah, and as Sam kind of flows through this, those first couple of steps should feel very familiar to those admins, those developers that are working in Salesforce tools, right? What object are we working with? What's our triggering? What are our conditions? So you'll see basically the same options you would see on any kind of data automation that you would be familiar with. But taking it a step further, then, we really wanted to build this wizard out so that you can quickly, within 5 minutes, build your quick and easy process here. So defining those responsibilities, think of them as swim lanes. We'll see them represented that way later on. The people that are responsible, so whether that's users or groups or queues, we've got access to all of the Salesforce features that are available to us, right, since we're on the platform. And then we want to start breaking our process into those milestones, right? What happens at the beginning, the middle, the end, all of the phases in between, because there's typically more than 3, and starting to identify those objectives, the people that are responsible for them, the order in which they happen. So as Sam's kind of filling this out, we've got some happening one after the other. We've got some that happen by different departments at the same time. So serial, parallel, whatever you need. And then also that concept of duration there. You see that duration column where we're going to enter how long something should take so that we can then measure it and make sure that we are working efficiently. So putting some final touches there, and then Sam will kind of show us the end result.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And as we look here, we designed a very basic process, but we can see there's different elements, there's different tasks that exist throughout that, and there's different responsibilities that we've set up. And the important piece here Eric talked about is that time-based element. We can assign these times to those tasks to specify when something needs to be completed, but also when something may be late. And from here, I'll go ahead and create that process. With it being a very basic process, what we'll see here is we now enter our process builder. While the process wizard is a great tool to get us kicked off and started, that's where we can really dive in here. As processes get more complex, where we may want sub-processes, that's where we're able to come within here and we can design this. We can add additional steps as needed. We can add more responsibilities, and even having conditional flow of how those different tasks navigate, with the goal here being that we have this very standardized process that is also very adaptable for us as well. So this is going to be our more in-depth builder here that's available for the team.
Yeah, and the one thing I just wanted to chime in on there, Sam, is as you do get more familiar with Work Relay, the wizard is an optional step. It's one that we recommend for people to begin with. But once you're comfortable, you are able to start building your process directly in this type of interface if that's something that's more appealing to folks. So kind of got the beginner and advanced functionality there.
Absolutely. And now that we've designed this process, we'll just take a quick peek at the other perspective. So now that I've built it as an admin, I'm now a member of a team, I'm a contributor, and I have tasks assigned to me. This is where we have this very straightforward Kanban board, one centralized location that you can come see all of your tasks, but you also now can drill into here. This is where we can start to see what's required to complete this task. In this case here, we'll see a form that's going to appear for us that's going to ask for some inputs to be entered by the individual. We may even have some files that get uploaded, but all of their work can be done right here for this task before they proceed. And as they proceed, that's where that next task gets assigned to the next individual. So everyone knows who's responsible for what work and when it should be completed there.
Yeah, my favorite part of that
once we've gained
is users,
that perspective with the team.
Sorry, Sam, just wanted to chime in on that really quick. My favorite part of this screen is that it's a one-stop shop for the users, right? They don't have to hunt for what they need to do. It's served up, it's prioritized. We can see what's on time already and where I might be a little bit behind. So yeah, just a huge screen for end users to simplify their workday.
Absolutely. And while we have limited time today, we have a ton of different features and functionalities of different checklist options, escalations, reassignments, time entry, all these different pieces that we'd love to show you guys on a more future in-depth demo there. But all these pieces going into that complex business process, that ultimately the goal here that we talked about are those metrics that we want to provide to your leadership, management, as well as those end users. And here we have our progress dashboard. This is one of the views that we provide out of the box in Work Relay, where you can quickly see here are all of the orders that are being worked on. And with all those orders being worked on, we can now see the individual steps in that process. From there, your team can quickly view to see what has been completed, what's on time, and what is late. We want to provide that one perspective here where you can see all of that. And as we transition that, the final screen I'll show here for us, just to give a quick high level for everyone on Work Relay and how we address some of the challenges we talked about, is going to be this final piece here of these metrics. Now that we've collected all of this data, as we've had the team progress step by step through the process, we can really drill in where we can start to see how often was something completed, how often was it late, were there reassignments or escalations that were needed, and ultimately that will provide us the data to understand this rating. And this is where we can really shift from that process standardization mindset. Let's get the process in place and the team doing it. But over time, we will evolve to that process optimization mindset. Which steps are slowing us down? What are some of those challenges? And these are some of the pieces that are generally hidden in a very complex process that can be designed. It's not always apparent for folks to see for individual tasks, what are those metrics? Within Work Relay, we want to provide all of those different elements here.
Well, it seems to be the difference between business process mapping and business process management is putting in those metrics so you can actually see it visibly and optimize. It sounds awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I think we just had kind of one more piece to wrap here, and then we can move into some questions, I think. But yeah, just to kind of put a bow on that, right? Now that we've gone through, built out our Work Relay processes, we are ready for success, right? And some, just to kind of recap some of those screens that you showed, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So we looked here, we had our process wizard. This was where we were quickly setting up that process. Think of this as a quick start mentality. And this is really where we can go from having that documented process, that standardized process, to now being entered into the system. So we can translate what we have on paper directly into here. We also then have our process designer, meant to look very much like a Visio or Lucid diagram. As you've designed that process with your team, let's now translate it into here. And as things get more complex, that's where we can address this complexity here as well, really in a user-friendly format that makes it very easy for the admins as they're interacting on that end, as well as an adaptable way to adjust that process as needed. From there, we saw that user-friendly, and as Eric mentioned, that centralized perspective. We want one-stop shop where everyone can go, they understand their tasks, they can complete their tasks, and they can move it forward, making it very streamlined and easy for them there. And then as we progress into that measurable visibility type view, we now have all of that data for our team. They can drill into these. A lot of folks actually use this as a weekly perspective where they can pop in here with their team and they can see where things are. Really quick, user-friendly way to do that for you. And the final piece here, we talked about that measurable and how important it is, and having these metrics and analytics coming out of the team performing their step-by-step process. We now have all of that aggregated. We can create some great reports, some dashboards, really effective metrics that can be actionable after that for the team.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Sam, for running through that. I wanted to call Zaina back at this point, I believe, and see if we had any questions from the audience that we'd like to address, or if anyone else on the panel had anything to kind of add at the end there.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, so thank you so much for that really insightful presentation, guys. Hopefully everyone attending now has a much better idea of how to strategically design and implement effective process maps within their Salesforce environments. So it's time for our Q&A now. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to submit them in the comments and we'll try to get around to as many as possible. So I think we've got a couple in. So Jason is asking for the duration, if it takes minutes, do we just enter it as 0.15 equals 15 minutes?
Yeah, we would definitely just do kind of fractional hours there. So it would be 0.25 is 15 minutes, that type of thing, which would be familiar with kind of like a Jira type interface, those types of things. And the thing for us to kind of think about here is making sure that we have the right amount of allotted time for users, even though the specific task itself, of entering the data might take 15 minutes. Is that typically a day or two because the user needs to gather something else? So just making sure that we're not calling tasks late just because they might have, a roster of some of those to get through. So, but again, something that we typically work with our customers on to advise on, okay, what what times make the most sense given the process that you have, so that we can start off with a good baseline and then tighten from there. But yeah, absolutely, it's able to handle kind of that minutes increments in fractions of an hour.
Fab, thank you. So when will we be able to use AI to just read out orgs and apps metadata to map out what's happening and then have us configure the map via promoting?
Yeah, huge question, right? It's kind of the dream, but it also kind of makes me a little bit scared to trust all of that data and metadata that's in there. But you know, from us at Work Relay, right? AI is something that we're certainly right on the pulse of, and something that we're looking to adapt into our interface as well. Whether that's something more along the lines of kind of typing the process in a human readable format, and then Work Relay taking and kind of computing that into the process maps that we saw there. I think the bigger piece of that and reading and analyzing is certainly something that we're hoping to get along the lines here as even Salesforce starts to mature its own kind of AI capabilities. So, you know, we're really riding along on the Salesforce AI capabilities there, and just working as quickly as we can to stay on the forefront of that. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that, or I see a lot of smiles. So.
I'll throw something in. So I actually did a presentation at Dreamforce this past year on how to prepare your org for an AI-driven future, and I think part of it is we don't actually know when it's coming. You know, or I'm sure there are some things that can already do fantastic things in Salesforce with AI, but I think the focus really needs to be initially on making sure that your org is prepared. So how clean is your data? Have you deduped everything? Are things up to date? How are your descriptions? Are your descriptions AI readable? And so if you look on the Salesforce admin blog, like I have a whole blog that was based on that presentation that I think is always a good first step, because at the end of the day, AI, you know, it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you're feeding it nonsense because your org is full of tech debt, then you're going to get nonsense out. So I would say, even though, you know, we're not necessarily like, okay, everybody's doing AI today, there are still things that you can do to get ready for it, because it is coming.
Great, thank you. So some businesses focus on tracking what users do. Does Work Relay have capability of what is not being done, some level of exception reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Sam, there was a bit of this on the process dashboard that you were showing as well. But yeah, we definitely have kind of almost a scorecard, right, of those tasks that are late, so we can see who's stuck or who is just not doing their work, or who is maybe taking longer, and then we can start digging into the why behind that, right? Because that's critically important. Yes, it's important to know that things are happening late, but simply increasing the amount of time isn't necessarily the solution for that, right? We need to dig in. Having the metrics in front of our face to show us when something is late is super helpful, but then it's our duty to kind of drill into, okay, the why behind that. Is that person responsible for multiple steps along the process, or that department responsible for multiple steps, and so things pile up at different times, and we just need to find a way to smooth that, or whatever the case may be. But yes, absolutely, Work Relay has those reports and those dashboards, as Sam showed, out of the box, so that you don't have to reconfigure those for every given process. We like to think of us really just kind of actualizing or enabling those dashboards, rather than you having to build them, because they're sitting there waiting to light up. And as soon as you activate a process and start working it, it's doing all that calculation for you without you having to build something custom. But you do have the added benefit, since everything's on top of the Salesforce platform, where you can really build any specific reporting that you would want to through the native report and dashboard builders that Salesforce offers as well. So you've got all that underlying data there to build something custom if it doesn't seem to already exist in the dashboard itself.
Yeah, and one other piece I'll touch on there, some of the features we didn't totally dive into, but even some areas what we'd want to work with you understand is, you know, where would you maybe have an escalation of the process? This might be something where you say, if this isn't getting done by this time frame, let's have their manager notified of it. We could have reminders, reassignments. So a lot of ways that we can help to ensure, if this is a process we expect to be performed, that we're making sure that that's carried out. And I saw Sandy, you were going to join in with a comment.
Yeah,
there.
well, I have to say that I loved hearing the capturing the why of things that are happening. Not only, why are we doing these things? Why is there, something that's might not be going well, but why are things going well? Why are things going the way we want to? And I also think another thing to help us prepare for AI is really documenting in the system where a place that AI could read it is the why are we doing things. So that comes from, even documenting our processes of, but why are we doing this? What is the goal? When we are in and configuring things, making sure we're filling out those descriptions of why is this field here? Why is this flow here? Because the AI is going to be able to read that and understand and then help us do other things. But I think capturing that why and being able to communicate the why to, again, think the whole reason, like we're talking about this process documentation and the process management is to understand why. Is this a good idea? Is this should we change our process? I think even one of the processes I could see being really well documented with a tool like this is the overall process that we take to make changes in orgs, right? Our DevOps process, like to have that really well documented, and a step in there should be supply the why. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, thank you. So just looking at some questions down from YouTube, what are some specific challenges that Salesforce admins often face when it comes to process mapping?
Probably the time to do it, since I think there's a big part of being an admin is almost kind of training your users how to treat you, your stakeholders how to treat you, and making them understand that, yes, while Salesforce is really easy to change, that's also not a great thing all the time. You have to actually be able to step back and ask those why questions, understand the business value they ask, and make sure that those business stakeholders aren't just giving you a solution. Hey, I need a drop down, or hey, I need a field. Like, there's 12 questions, that you need to ask before a field even goes in. So that's super important. And having those admins be able to advocate for themselves and really communicate what it takes to actually make any changes to the org is, I think, vital.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that's, admins in general, can you do it? Probably. I don't think that that's the right question to be asking. It's, should we be doing these things? And maybe the answer is yes, but maybe the answer is, well, maybe, but we might have to do this differently or this instead. Or sometimes it is no, because it's just we find a different way or a better way to do things. But having that time to be able to make that analysis and those decisions is, I think, very much a neglected part of the process that makes people successful. It's important to have that time to figure out, should we be doing these things before we even decide how? And I think that's, those metrics that we were talking about that we can get out is a really good way to have that conversation with management and leadership so we can help them drive the vision and set the priorities, and just make sure we're doing things not because we can, but because it actually brings us value and efficiencies and makes us all better.
Yeah, like Jurassic Park up in here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just noticed a comment from Tracy asking if the recording will be available after the session. Yes, it will be. It will be on the Salesforce Ben YouTube channel, so please go and check that out. Great. So how do you ensure that the process maps remain up to date as Salesforce configurations change over time?
Yeah, huge question, right? And a bigger question than just work relay, which goes around your entire governance process. So even kind of touching on what you were mentioning before around potentially work relay, even having a process for what gets promoted into production, those types of things. It really just goes into your entire kind of DevOps and governance, right? If you are making updates to existing fields, if you're deprecating, if you're creating a new, if you're changing record types, those types of things, making sure that those are also well documented. in the system in which you're documenting those, making sure you have good version control and reversion if you did need to go back. And then really just kind of trying to marry those together. Workrail is going to try to assist you in that. If the process can no longer access a certain field, we'll present those warnings and those alerts and point you to where those need to be updated. But it'll be similar, to any change that you might be making if you're using Flow to automate your data movement, for example. So if you do need to start using a different field, if you deprecate a field and replace it with another, just making sure that you have a well-documented and a smooth-running DevOps process, and then marrying that with your well-documented business process, so that one hand is kind of working in conjunction with the other. Sandy, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah,
there.
I would think that this kind of documentation enables us to adapt to the changing
Exactly.
both business requirements and changes in Salesforce. But if we do not have our processes well documented, our systems well documented, it just takes us longer to answer the question, can we or should we do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So building this library of information to understand what is happening, why is it happening, so that we have it, we don't have to go do that research. And when the time that says, well, we talk about, could we do something else, or this is what I'd like to do, what would it take to do that? It kind of presents that already that foundation that helps us understand, how do we suggest that we move forward? So I think that keeping the documentation as up to date as possible actually enables the process to move us all to work faster.
Yeah, and
even though it takes time, right? Like we have to tell each other, like we have to be on each other's side and say, hey, this is an important part of this process. It's the foundation. It will lift us all up and make us all better.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to add in, I know we've mentioned it a couple times, but business process maps evolve. And when we're evolving them and when we're doing version control on them, going back to that why, talking about why there were changes to that business process map is also documentation to go back and say, okay, why did we make those decisions to change things there? What efficiencies did we get? What business value did we get by evolving this process? And having that documentation is vital, because you never know when you're going to have a handoff to another admin, or you're going to, maybe there's an acquisition and you're going to have different people that are going to have to be part of the process. You're going to have to onboard a whole bunch of people at once. Maybe you're going to have a consultant come in. Having that documentation and that source of truth and why that process evolved is fantastic, so that you can gain those efficiencies when you're bringing people on board.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely something, again, kind of early in the career that I didn't do. And then as my team expanded and I had to get more people up to speed on it, I was stuck doing a lot of the same things that I had to do because I hadn't taken the step to document it for myself or think farther into the future than immediately what's happening right now. So yeah, awesome advice.
Yeah, and just a quote that comes to mind, I might butcher it a little bit, but it's that mindset that the only constant in life is that there's change that will occur. And I think the important piece here is having those right tools, having the right change management that recognizes this and really supports your team as those changes occur, so that it can be a very seamless transition for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are there any common pitfalls that Salesforce admins should be aware of when designing process maps, and how can they be avoided?
Oh, wow. Do we have another hour to go through those? Sandy or Vanessa, anything that's coming immediately to mind, especially maybe Vanessa from your BA, the BA side of things?
For me, the first thing that comes up is just taking one person's word for what the business process looks like. I think oftentimes a manager, for example, might have a very high level, like what they think the day-to-day of that process looks like, and then you get into the weeds of the people that are actually doing it, and they might have a different perspective on what that process looks like. So I think speaking to several different people, certainly to everybody that's part of that process, and also to people at different levels, is important, so that you're capturing everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Trusting too early, trusting too readily, I think is definitely one of those pitfalls. And I love that you kind of highlighted that there, that the management, the leadership might have an idea of how the process should be working, but really getting into each layer, and especially end user layer, right? That's where you understand what's actually happening, what's actually painful, what does work well, what their desires are for something that's a bit more user friendly. So yeah, just really diving into each of those steps, and something to that, even consultants work with this, right? You've got the person that signed off on the project, they pass it to the team, and you build something and you take it back to the stakeholder, and they're looking at it like, well, this isn't what I wanted. So yeah, just that kind of level of trust and verifying, right? Just making sure that you go into each of the actors in the process, and making sure that you really flesh that out. So yeah, great one, Vanessa.
And really quickly, Zaina, before, if we have time for one last question, just want to quickly for the group call out. I know as some folks may have to leave here at the top of the hour, we would love to kind of continue this conversation with folks as well. If you scan the QR code here, we would love to host your team for a lunch and learn, grab a coffee, really be able to dive in a little further around the business analyst, but also around that work relay tool as well. So just want to mention that quickly. Maybe we have time for one more, Zaina.
Yeah, sure. So Juan is asking, any resources on learning how to create business process maps and learning which maps are best for different types of processes?
I think Vanessa and I probably are going to say a similar thing, and we're probably going to both advocate for Trailhead.
Yep.
In particular, there is a business analyst trail mix that if you're looking through that, there's some excellent materials just in Trailhead, specifically about kind of the whole entire thought process, and some different strategies about from gathering the requirements or gathering the understanding of a process to several strategies and approaches for documenting. So I would absolutely say Trailhead, and in particular the business analyst certification preparation trail mix.
Well, since Sandy's talking about the business analyst trail mix, I'm going to advocate actually for the well-architected website, which also has a lot of different ways to map things as another good resource. And with the business process mapping, and another resource, if folks are interested, Salesforce actually helps fund Clicked, which has business process mapping experiences that you can do for free if you just kind of want to practice in a safe space. But for me in general, I think I don't know that there's like the perfect business process map for any particular process. I think as long as you're communicating the right things and everybody's on the same page and it's transparent, it's easy to read, all those types of that list of things that make a good process map, that's really the important part. Do people understand it? Is it communicating the thing that you want to communicate? Don't get too caught up on it has to be the perfect process map and super formal, and that I think people get a little bit too caught up on.
Agreed.
Cool. All right. Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. So thank you so much to everyone for attending. We hope you've gained some valuable insights into how to build process maps. I'd like to extend a massive thank you to Eric, Sam, Sandy, and Vanessa for sharing their expertise and insights with us today. Before we sign off, any final words, guys?
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Sandy, Vanessa, Zaina, for hosting this with us. We're really excited to talk further. Please do reach out to us. We'd love to continue the conversation and see how we can continue to assist different organizations at Salesforce. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say thank you, Salesforce Ben. Thank you, NeoStella. I think business process mapping is important foundationally for the success of all sorts of Salesforce projects. And so really important topic. And I really appreciate you guys bringing us on to talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate your time, and both of you, Sandy and Vanessa, joining us here. And I think the other thing that I'd like to say is I'm excited to meet people in real life again. So we'll be at as many of the community-led events as you can muster. Trailblazer DX, I think it's called this year, Dreamforce, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm sure you'll find all four of us there. So looking forward to meeting anyone in person as we bump into each other. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Great. Well, thank you again to everyone for attending, and we hope to see you again for our next webinar soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.